Hello, fellow solar industry legends, and welcome back to Solar Yarns. This is episode number 2. Last week was really exciting to do this new concept. As I said to everybody, I really miss going to all the conferences and training days where after getting that education or walking around trade stands, we get to stand around and network with our peers, with manufacturers, share stories, share challenges, and just share ideas. And at the moment, with social distancing and everyone working from home, it's really important we connect like this. We did have some people that were brave enough to be dialed in. We also had some people that were nice enough to reach out to me and say, look, we'll be a pre-organised person that'll dial in. We have some of those today as well, which is great. But I really want to say thank you to the people that came in last week and made it really good. Like, I got some amazing takeaways out of it. Some of the people that I spoke to who watched Solar Yarns last week said that they took some really big takeaways from it. Like, one of the really interesting ones that I heard from the likes of Springers, MC Electrical, I think Velocity Solar down there in Victoria was, I was under the impression everyone would be doing sales presentations over the phone and via video and not really going out and seeing people because of the social distancing. But I'm hearing a lot of companies out there are doing kind of front yard presentations. You're able to keep yourself 1.5 meters, 2 meters away from the people and talk to them in our front yard. And it makes sense. It makes you very comfortable to be standing in the front yard, looking at the house, and they're getting a really good success rate. So look, before we get into the new way of networking, Australia's first ever online solar networking, our guest speaker today is Finn Peacock from Solar Quotes. So thank you, Finn, for so much for coming in. And I'll hand over to Finn to tell you about how his leads have really gone up, and the quality of leads is great. But he's also going to give you a little bit of a insight into something he's implemented into the questions he asks these people as they're inquiring about getting quotes, and how that's really helped people, helped the companies that get the leads to increase their conversion rates. So Finn, I'll take you off mute there, mate. You're in live.
Cheers, Liam. Thanks a lot, mate. So when you called me up yesterday, it was quite funny. You said, what do you want to talk about? And I said, I'll talk about lead volume. And you said, no, it's got to be positive. I said, are you freaking kidding me? Our leads have doubled during the pandemic. So what happened was, when it all kicked off and the curve in terms of infection started to rise, that was probably mid-March. There was 2 weeks there where things were really, really quiet. Leads fell off a cliff. I mean, they weren't fatally bad, but they were much lower than they should have been. Probably half of what they should have been. And then that lasted for about 2 weeks. And then as the media started to talk about flattening the curve, people started to get used to being in the pandemic situation, being locked down. We just saw leads absolutely go through the roof. So essentially for the last 2 weeks, our leads are double what we'd expect them to be. And I'll share a graph. There you go. Can everyone see that? So that's basically, talk you through that. So that's this week, basically, from the 22nd through to the 29th of April. The red line is same day last year. And the blue, this is the amount of leads we're getting. It starts at 0. I haven't put the scale on there to maintain some confidentiality, but the y-axis starts at 0. So you can see we're pretty much doubled our lead volume. This little dip here is Saturday, Sunday. And so leads, April's probably going to be one of the biggest months we've ever had. So the question is why? Why have leads, at least through Solar Quotes, gone off like a hot frog? And that's a number of things. Obviously, people getting comfortable being in a pandemic situation. A lot of people are at home. A lot of people are doing stuff that they've been putting off for a while. Solar's one of those things. B, they want to make their home nice, as good as possible. Solar's a big part of that. I don't have to tell you guys that. And Solar Quotes is in a good place to capture those people because they're sat at home. They're willing to do the research. If you do any research on solar on the web in Australia, you're more than likely going to come across Solar Quotes. So that's my good news story. I was feeling a bit a bit scared for a couple of weeks when leads were really quiet, but it's absolutely gone crazy, which is really good news for us and our clients. I mean, the other nice thing to go with that is what's it done to lead quality. So here's another kind of insight into Solar Quotes. At Solar Quotes, we measure lead quality, and we don't measure it. We want to do it as objectively as possible. Obviously, if you ask me if our leads are any good, I'm going to tell you they're brilliant. So we don't do that. We actually ask our clients. We send an email out automatically every week on a Sunday, and we say, all we ask them to do is rate the quality of the leads from 0 to 10. So this is weekly. So this basically we're getting as good lead quality as we've ever got in the last couple of weeks. So what you can see what happened here was, so the blue line is how many people answered the survey. We got about 350 clients. So you can see about on a good week, about 40 people answer the survey. 15th, this was a really kind of scary week when everyone was wondering if the world was going to end. Lead quality, you know, dropped to what, 6 3/4 out of 10. We don't like to see it go below 7, and then it started to climb out of the doldrums. And a couple of weeks ago, which coincides with the high volumes, lead quality is almost 8 out of 10, as voted by the guys paying for the leads, getting the leads. Why has lead quality gone up? Well, again, it's just there's a number of things. One is, in this kind of pandemic situation, reasonable leads, reasonable customers, you know, they just don't want to waste anyone's time. So they're not going to go through, answer 13, 14 questions on Solar Quotes, get, you know, 1 to 3 guys out, either on the phone or out, and then they're just not going to waste your time. So generally that's really helped lead quality. The other thing is, you know, people have a sense of urgency now. I don't know if it's the, you know, staring down the barrel of mortality, or, you know, all these scary, uncertain stuff that's going on. But people have realised, you know, they're not fucking around. You know, let's do this. We put it off for too long. Let's get solar. And the other thing is, they've got very few distractions, right? They're kind of over all the COVID-19 news stories, which they were doing in these 2 weeks. And they've got the time to actually research solar and buy it. And the other thing is, they're staring down the barrel of high electricity bills over winter, so they want to get it in as soon as possible. Now, what Liam touched on was, there was also something else we did that has dramatically improved lead quality, and that's, I don't know if you know how Solar Quotes work, but we ask 13 questions before, at least 13 questions before someone can become a lead. And we inserted this one: are you looking to pay cash or monthly installments? Now, when we insert a question into the lead funnel, as we call it in Solar Quotes, we ask one question, which sets us apart from other lead generators, I'd wager. Is it going to improve lead quality? And if it's a yes, we're probably going to put it in there. This is a good question because, you know, it's the classic sales technique. Cash or credit card, madam? You basically, you know, let's cut to the chase. You've got, you know, how are you going to pay for this solar system? So it goes from the research stage into, you're going to pay for it. The other thing it does is it kind of makes them realize that solar is actually, you know, really good payback, because it quantifies it. And it quantifies it by giving an example down here of, you know, you can get repayments from $86 a month and it can save you $150 a month. So even if you're not very good at maths, you know, it's pretty obvious it's going to save you money up front. And interestingly, we put this other third option, which is show me options for both cash and monthly repayments. Now that's interesting because you can't do that with buy now, pay later, because it's actually illegal. If you're using buy now, pay later, you know, kind of Hum or the zero interest Bright thing, you've got to charge, it's a legal thing, you've got to charge the same for cash and finance because they pretend not to be a finance product. But you can do this if you're offering kind of regulated, properly regulated finance. So that's people like RateSetter, Parker Lane. And so people can see on the quote that the monthly repayments are cash flow positive, and they can also see critically, transparently, the cost of the finance. So if they've got the cash, they're a bit worried about digging into their cash because, you know, having a cash buffer right now is wonderfully reassuring. You know, some people are going, well, you know what, I will pay cash because I'll save $1,000 in finance fees. So that's worked really well. I was a bit worried that this would actually reduce lead volume, which obviously costs Solar Quotes money, but we put it in there anyway. But what we found was it actually put lead volume up combined with all the other stuff. So it was win-win. So that's what we did. If you're been on the fence, I know a lot of installers, especially the smaller ones, feel that finance is a bit grubby, and I get that. I'm not a fan of buy now, pay later. I'm a fan of the proper regulated finance, where you can charge a different price for cash and finance. If you're on the fence about doing that, contact someone like RateSetter, set it up, because it really gets people in the door. They may not even pay on monthly payments. They may end up paying cash, but it's really good for getting them in the door, and it's really good for just demonstrating really simply, the value proposition of solar. So that's about all I've got to say, really. The pandemic is for lead and lead quality has been really good for us. So silver lining.
That's awesome, Finn. Thank you so much for coming in. I think if you can turn off the screen share there, mate,
Yeah.
That's really amazing to hear that residential sentiment has changed so much. We're now seeing his leads at that business there double. I'm hearing from a lot of different businesses that market sentiment residentially is really on the up. Commercially, I'm hearing it's softened a little bit, but overall, I think the fact that Australia has done so well coming past the curve, we're really seeing some positivity. So thank you so much, Finn, for jumping in as our guest today. But let's jump into Solar Yarns. That's what this is about. It's about everyone networking the way we used to, but now doing it digitally. So look, a couple of quick protocols. The way you come in, I can see there's a lot of people in the group now. The way you come in is in the chat area. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see there's a chat area. All you need to put in there is dial me in to the comment feed, and we'll bring you in live. So I have Dane Muldoon, a sales engineer at my business, who's helping me host the event. He will bring you in and have you ready there to go. I've already got a number of people that were nice enough to say they'd be jumping in with me today, already up there, ready to go. A couple of other protocols. I'll say there's a language warning. You can throw a little bit of light swearing around in here. It's all pretty casual, so language warning out there. This is all about positivity. I don't want people naming names of people, names of businesses, or names of brands and hanging shit on them. It's about positivity. We don't want a defamation case here, so let's keep it positive and not name and shame anybody. But apart from that, it's all about just having a chat. Now, having a look at the topics I was covering last week, in general, I think this is what we want to continue to do, is how are people, if you're installers, handling no contact installs? How are you handling your install crews when you're out on site? What processes have you put in place? If you're a sales company, how are you now changing the way you sell? Just what things have you done in your business which are helping you? What challenges are you having? Put a question out there to everybody, and I'm sure we're going to get some great feedback. So look, jumping there right now, looking at the top of the screen, Rob Manson. Thank you, Rob, so much for saying you'll come in. He's from I Want Energy in Tasmania. Rob, you're in live there, mate.
G'day, Liam. G'day, everyone. Hello from beautiful Tassie. We're doing pretty well down here. And positivity is very important, as you mentioned, Liam, and it's good to hear Finn's views and to see the leads coming through again. We did have a small quiet period there for a couple of weeks, but bearing in mind Easter was thrown in as well, sort of the second biggest public holiday period in Australia, so it was always going to be a little bit quieter. We've regrouped very quickly because we were very lucky that we could adapt and we can change, and the strongest, the ones that are going to survive are not necessarily the strongest, it's the ones that can adapt and change really quickly. And we try to keep really positive the whole time, not just within our company, but talking to our customers in a positive manner as well. And it's really worked. And a lot of people looking for a bit of a message of hope, etc. And we're in a good position because we sell such a product that offers value to people. It's well respected and has been for a while. So we took that opportunity, and we've been advertising on TV and radio and Facebook, etc. I'm just saying to people, look, it's the sun's still going to rise. The world will come back. Things have changed, but they haven't changed forever. We'll get back there. And we've been fortunate. We've been part of a local community TV program where they're putting out small business owners like myself, a whole panel of us, putting out a positive message. And I really think it does help, not just for the clientele, but personally for me to be involved with other people, sending a positive message has been really, really good. And that's allowed me to filter it down to the staff, and the staff have been fantastic. One of the other positive things about doing business this way now is that sales reps, in my view, our sales staff, have expanded their hours, whereas they might have traditionally balked at, oh, do I really want to talk to that person at 6 o'clock on a Thursday night? Well, okay, well, actually, I didn't do too much between 9 and 10 o'clock this morning, sitting around at home in my pajamas. Yeah, I can afford to get on the phone and chase a bit more. And I think that is going to have a long-term effect on all of our businesses, the ability to work from home, doing what we're doing right now. And it'll create more time and opportunity. And naturally enough, we want to create more sales so we can sell more of those phono panels, Liam.
Oh, mate, put a bit of a plug in there for me, mate. I'm trying not to go too hard on the plugs, mate. This is about industry sharing ideas, but thanks, mate, for the plug there. Mate, it's really good to hear you being positive, and that's what I'm trying to do in my business with my staff as well. And I'm getting the same thing. I'm finding my team have almost like hit their strides and are working better. Like we are really seeing our team come together and working on the processes better. Our efficiencies and processes have gotten better as a business. And the same thing, we've got a great positivity. We're video conferencing with everyone every day. And it's great to hear it's really positive down there in Tassie, mate. I know that you're a respected business down there in Tasmania. So good to hear you going well, Rob. And thanks so much for jumping in.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Look, jumping across to another solar legend who said he'd jump in, James Taylor from Taylor Energy. So it'd be good to hear from an installer. I know, James, you've got a fair few crews out there, mate. What have you kind of changed in your business when handling installs? And I know we had some installers last week that were quite strong residentially, but I know that you do a fair bit of commercial installs. How's that changed for you?
We're pretty well business as usual. It's the same as what Rob has said and same as what Finn said. We had that early on downturn where it just looked like chaos and we just everything just went out the door and things went crazy. But we've sort of picked up and are going as busy as ever now. I mean, in terms of handling the virus though, I've just, simple things like I've got heaps of hand sanitizer in all the cars. I've got antibacterial wipes in all the cars. Try to maintain no contact with the customers, just all the basic stuff you've probably heard. You've got to make it look like you're making a really big effort, even if they exaggerate it a bit. So you've got to sort of come to the door and be like, hey, look, I really don't want to see you, and the guys actually love it because they don't have to deal with the customer hanging over their shoulder the whole day. So it's the best ever in some ways. You don't have that annoying person 1 meter away from you.
That customer the customer that sits up on the ridge cap, mate, watching you do everything.
Yeah, exactly. You can sort of it's a great polite way to be like, look, sorry, we're trying to maintain no contact, so if you could just stay inside, that'd be great. So best thing. But I mean, yeah, like I said, we're going pretty well. I'm not too worried anymore. It seems like it's sort of passing, and as same as Finn, like even my own sales I've got heaps of leads coming in. More than normal even, so business as usual for us.
Another great positive message from an installer side, mate. Good to hear you got some good private sales on the run there as well, mate. So awesome work, mate. Good to hear from you, James. Thanks for coming in, mate.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm just getting a drink.
A beer. A few people were drinking a beer on here last week. We're pretty open to that kind of stuff. Look, one thing that I was hearing from some people, and I saw it on social media the other day as well, and I'm just going to blend things up a little bit today. I saw a message on the Solar Cutters group where someone was really having a bit of a vent about companies out there that are unqualified, companies out there that don't have designers on staff, that don't have licenses, that are supplying substandard equipment that subbies like James just has to go out there and install, even though they know the product will probably fail. And how people were, I suppose, giving a little bit of heat to the ASR program that the Clean Energy Council have. And one of the people who's dialing in today, a mate of mine as well, Jack Hooper from Gem Energy. He's actually on the board of the Clean Energy Council now, and he raised a really good comment. He said, look, people have frustrations, but can you throw at me some ideas on how we can fix this and how we can improve it? And I think it was good when Jack got on the board of the Clean Energy Council, because it's actually a person from within our industry, someone who's running a solar retail company, an install company, that's now on the board. And he asked the question in that feed, what are some ideas people have to be able to fix this problem? Now, I'm asking for people to say, dial me in now to the comment area, and I'll bring you in live, and you can give me some ideas, but I really want to hear some feedback on how people think that can be overcome, that issue. So, look, while I'm waiting for some people to be brave enough to come in, I'll cut over to Jack and hear what he's already heard from people. Jack, you're on live there, mate.
Thanks, Liam. I can't say I was expecting that too much, mate. Just thought I'd just jump in and have a quick cheeky little listen to what was going on. But yeah, look, I jumped in and made that comment because, look, I was a bit, to be honest, before I got on the board of the CEC, I guess I was a bit naive to what they do. And I think one of the things that I will say is that the board don't want, the CEC don't want dodgy operators out there installing solar. They don't want it. They never have, but it's really, really complex. And it's difficult to do something about it. It's not like they can just wave a wand and everything changes. There's so many areas that are completely out of the control of the CEC to stop. There's things like misleading advertising. Well, it's not their responsibility to stop that. I see quotes, 100 kilowatt quotes going out the door at 60 something cents a watt into GST, and people complain about it and say, oh, the CEC need to do something about it. Well, what can they do about it? The CEC can't stop people quoting whatever they want to quote to do a job. That's not within their power. I mean, but yes, there's things that they can do, but it's a big organization and it moves quick. And I've been in solar almost 10 years. And one thing that I'll say is that the industry is always quicker at moving than regulatory bodies. People will come in and make a regulatory change, but people can outsmart it. And that will always be the case. And after 10 years, I always said to myself, oh, eventually all these dodgy companies will be out of the industry, but they won't. And that's something that I've accepted now. There's always going to be somebody else. There's always going to be somebody cheaper, and that's not going to change. And I used to be 3 or 4 years ago, I used to be one of the guys that would complain on social media about an apparent lack of action. But when someone would say to me, well, give me some ideas, I never really had any. It was very easy for me to make some complaints and say, oh, do something about it. Well, okay, what can we do about it, and how are we going to do it, and who's the person that's going to do it, and with what resources, and who's paying for that? So if I said, oh, I'm going to do that, but I need you to all give me some money to employ someone to do it, then people would balk at that and say, well no, who provides these resources? And people would put it back. The interesting comment about not having an electrical contractor's license when advertising and selling solar. I get it. It's the amount of companies out there that just get one of their subbies to be their QTP, and they have people that they're pulling in from somewhere else to be their qualified business person. People are finding a way around it. And people will go and sign stat decks to say, yeah, I'm a full-time employee at that company. But they're not. They're running their own subcontractor company. And you're always going to get that in the industry. And what body goes out there and regulates that? I think what we see a lot of is we see a lot of issues in the industry, but we don't see anybody individually, making the time to go and complain about it. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been collecting quotes from companies that don't itemize the GST at all on the quote, or the ones that do itemize the GST and they itemize it incorrectly. I'm reporting to the ATO, and I'm making that effort personally out of hours to go and report something to the ATO to say, look, this company isn't recording GST properly. Eventually, the ATO is going to look at it and say, well, hang on, how many millions of dollars am I getting shortchanged because companies aren't doing their GST properly? And it also brings up, competition consumer law issues, because these guys have got an unfair advantage in the market because for every job they're making another $300 or $400 in profit. So of course they can be cheaper. But that again, that's not the CEC's job to do that. Who is the policeman that goes in there and sorts that out? It's not the CEC. But one thing that I'm open to, and I think one thing that the Clean Energy Council are open to, is ideas on how they can improve. We're at the coalface. We see the problems. They're not at the coalface. They don't get to see the problems that we do. So it's easy to say, "I'll go and do something about it," but what and how? I think
Jack, that's why I think it's been good that having somebody who runs a solar supply and install business like yourself, been on the board, is a positive thing. But I think this time right now, with the conversation starting on social media, I'm bringing it up today in Solar Yarns, is people need to put these ideas forward to Jack. He's here to represent us in the industry, and he can take it forward to the board and shake it up a little bit in there, and shake up those corporate ties a little bit, and tell them about what's really going on out here so we can try to improve things. So look, Finn Peacock said he just wanted to jump in here. Finn, I've just taken you off mute there, mate. Jump on in. Sorry, buddy.
That's better.
There you go, mate.
Cool. So we spend a lot of time, believe it or not, thinking about stuff like what Jack was talking about. And we do a number of things that a lot of people probably aren't aware of, but just one of them that we started, I don't know, about 6 months ago. I'll just share my screen again. We bring up this mob, Gem Energy. Their reviews page on Solar Quotes, you'll see, and we do this for all Solar Quotes clients. This is a real-time link to ASIC that comes back with their ABN, tells us when it was active since, so the consumer can see how long the company's been in business, and we verify it every day automatically. Same with the ACN, if they've got one, verify it in real time. But then electrical contractor's license, like the amount of solar companies that apply to Solar Quotes and don't even have a proper electrical contractor's license is sad. So in terms of Gem Energy here, you can see they've got all the correct licenses for all the states that they operate in. And again, where we can do it programmatically, we verify it in real time every 24 hours. If we can't do that, we actually pay someone to go and check the license, because the NT, there's no API connection. You've got to actually go to the website and check it's still there. We actually pay someone every 2 weeks, I think it is, to go through and check that it's still valid. And what happens sometimes is we actually ping our clients and say, you've forgotten to renew your electrical license. So that's one of the things. We believe in transparency, and we're just trying to get all that important information out there so people can actually be reassured that they've at least got the basics in place, which is they've got the electrical license. Then we also try and educate them about, it's actually quite, there's quite a lot of caveats in the different states and territories about what kind of licenses you need to actually, the difference between selling and installing solar. So I just wanted to say that.
Maybe offering a bill-paying reminder service there as well, mate, and it's putting Jack's business straight up there in front of everyone in Solar Yarn. You're pretty lucky that it all stacks up there, mate. Look, we'll keep this moving through. Another person I've got sitting here that is ready to go. Look, I did ask a number of people. I think a few people have dropped off, so I'll wait for them to come back in. John Inglis from Positronic. John, you there, mate? I don't know if your video's on, but I might have your audio.
Yeah, I'm here.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Good.
That's the way. Hey, what are you finding out there? What are you seeing? What's a challenge? What's something that's giving you the shits? What's something you like? Just share it with me, mate.
Right. Well, our experience with the number of leads we're getting and is very similar to what Finn described. And I've been chatting to other people, and everybody's got the same experience that the phone. What was it, about a month ago? The phone just stopped, and stopped for probably about 2 or 3 weeks. And about 2 weeks ago, the phone started, and the leads coming through, they've been converting really quickly. And when the phone stopped, we had work up until the middle of May, and now we've got work to the end of May. So, they've been converting quickly, and pretty well back to normal until the next down of the solar coaster, really.
Well, there's been a few up and downs, mate, hasn't there?
Yeah, there's been a couple over the last 30 years. So as far as things giving me the shits, well, I'm a grumpy old man, so, you know, just name it.
30 years, mate. I thought I was an old Ben and solar, been in for 10 years. Bloody hell.
Oh, well, you know, I do have the badge.
He's patched up. Look at that. Patched
Fully patched.
up. Oh, good times, mate. And I know you're pretty vocal online a fair bit, mate. What are you seeing out there that's a frustration to you?
Well, you know, I know you want to talk about CC today, and that's probably why you've pinged me. But, you know, I hear what's being said about, you know, the CEC haven't got the power to do this and they haven't got the resources to do that. You know, and as anybody listening would know, my attitude is just get out of the way. Just, you know, you're useless. You haven't got the power to do anything. Just stop trying to be a policeman. You know, there are plenty of other, you know, you've already got state organisations that if they were properly resourced would be able to do what they were doing 15 years ago, you know, 20 years ago, like inspections, enforcing regulations about unlicensed contractors, which is most solar sales companies, you know, they're contracting for electrical work and there's not an electrical licence among them. The CEC have been banging around for, since the BCSC. And, you know, things haven't improved, they've gotten worse. You know, as I say to people, the biggest clue about it, you know, the CEC and the BCSC is it was set up by Johnny Howard, the renewable energy friend, you know. It's, you know, Jack's having a go, good luck to him. That's great. But really, the CEC doesn't add value to the industry at all.
Well, this is what this is about, people sharing their opinions. And as I said, what I'm inviting is people recommending ideas through to Jack to take to the board. You know, it is frustrating when we see these crap companies out there. And, you know, when I ran a solar retail business, putting systems in between 2009 and 2011, you know, I had a higher cost than all these marketing companies because I maintained electricians on staff and the correct licensing. And it is frustrating when you're out there competing against the price discount crap when they're just marketing PTY LTDs that don't have any proper licensing. There's a pretty good little reference point that Finn puts on his website, I suppose, there that is actually cross-checking that. Look, I think we've all got frustrations with how certain things are regulated, but I think people need to put ideas forward on how we can actually drive change. Look, I've got Jake Warner, who came in last week wanting to jump in. I'd like to hear what Jake has to say today. How are you, Jake?
Hey, Liam, good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, well.
Outstanding. Mate, I'd like to start with, firstly, you know, I'm actually coincidentally renewing my CEC license today as an installer and designer. And mate, it's not actually really a walk in the park. You know, you've got to do your points, and, you know, they've now got a demerit point system set up. I guess my question is, and maybe a little optimistic as I am, my question to the people who aren't a fan of it is, what do you think it would look like without it? You know, where would we actually stand without the CEC? Where would we be now? You know, I'm sure there'd be some positive things, but we get an email bulletin that says how many installers have actually been suspended, how many licenses have actually been stripped, and it's actually a pretty scary and impressive number, if I'm honest. So, I almost struggle when I sit there and think, what would I do to make this better? My biggest thing is education. I think if we can educate and keep delivering, and look, there are people around there. Glenn Morris runs the battery, whatever you call that, like it's super center. I think education's the key to really raising the bar of the industry. And that's personally where, you know, there's obviously solar cutters, a bit of a movement. That's what my input to solar cutters is. You know, we have these committee meetings and it's always education. I really think we need some sort of education other than your CEC courses, like a third party company to give designers. I think a lot of when you see the rubbish out there, a lot of it starts with designers. I think if you don't have a proper designer who's doing these things, you know, you end up with panels over gutters and bridges, and just, you look everywhere you look, there's just so many failures waiting to happen, clamping zones, just all sorts of things. And I think it starts with design. So I think to improve, we need to really lift the education. And whilst 100 CPD points is a really good start, I'd actually like to see it tougher. I'd really like to see it stepped up another level. I think it's easy. Like for me, I get points everywhere I go. I mean, we go do all these little courses, and you go to Melbourne, and you go to Sydney every year, and you know, I still find myself not registering the points, and I get to this day here, and I've got to do a few online webinars, to be honest, to get to catch up 30 points. Although would have had hundreds and hundreds, I just think it would be good to step it up a little bit and step up the education, and that would really keep people on their toes. And I mean, I even learned something today. I did the new rooftop isolator webinar, and I even learned something. I like to think I'm pretty on top of those sort of things. So I'd like to see that a little bit more mandatory and probably lifted. But otherwise, I don't have a complaint. I think it's positive from the CC, and I don't think, you know, as much as we can say it needs change or whatever, I think they've got some pretty good momentum, and I hope that it actually keeps going, to be honest.
Look, I think there was a good recommendation there, mate, which is more and better professional development. So I think that's something probably take note of there, Jack. It's just 100 points is there. Does it need to be more points? Does it need to be stricter? Like, I have seen some of the training days which have been eligible for 50 points, and they're pretty shit on the content. Like, I don't know how they got allowed to get the 50 points. So maybe how the point system is rated needs to become stricter. You know, I have seen some things that are essentially networking, like we're doing right here, right now, that are worth points. And I don't believe turning up and listening to somebody basically put on networking drinks or something should be eligible for points. So it's probably a good recommendation there, mate. And thanks for jumping in there, Jake. I've got, if he's still in there in the ranks, just give me one moment. I have a few people dropping in and out in the feed. One other thing I want to raise, I've had a company and a person who was going to come in that had to cancel. He had something come up with his business. One thing he's done is he's trying to support more Australian businesses. That was his kind of comment he was going to bring in. He's trying to change his offering a bit. Can he use some Australian-made products? You know, we use in our business a framing product, which we can now get an Australian-made rail, for example, a cutter rail, I think they call it, from Clenergy. There's a number of manufacturers out there doing Australian-made aluminium extrusion, for example. Some people out there are making a conscious step towards supporting Australian-owned businesses and Australian-made products where possible. You know, my business is 100% Australian-owned business. I'm trying to 100% support Australian businesses where possible. Who else is out there, you know, doing what they can to support Aussie businesses in some way? You know, I'm going to bring you back in, Jack, mate. You doing anything to support Aussie businesses, mate?
You're throwing me under the bus. Mate, what do you want me to say? Hey, that was absolutely brutal. Oh, mate, yeah, we're
Mate, it can go down to the smallest thing, mate. My old electrical supervisor, who stopped working for me back in 2010 or 11, I think it was, is now the brewmaster at a brewery on the Sunshine Coast called Brew Ha Ha. And he's now the brewmaster up there. And I made sure that I'm ordering a couple of slabs of overpriced IPA craft beers off him just to support a good local Australian-made business. So it filters all the way down the line to, you know, even those smaller things.
Mate, look, to be honest, I have personally, I can't speak from the business, but personally, I've been holding off on a bathroom renovation for a while. You know, I've been holding off on doing a bunch of shit like that I've been meaning to do for a while. And I'm like, well, you know, at the moment I can afford to do it, and everybody's struggling for work. Now isn't the time for me to stop spending. Now's the time for me to start doing those things and actually putting money back into the economy and getting this stuff done now. So I personally have actually spent, you know, quite a lot of coin around my house and doing stuff like that just to try to keep people in a job. It might not be solar related, but it's certainly me doing what I can to try to keep things ticking over from an economy point of view. I think one of the things that I will say, not just about, you know, buying local, Liam, like it's good hearing all this positivity about leads and things, and I'm seeing the information coming through from Sunwiz about the amount of STCs getting generated and how, you know, we're having great months still. But, you know, like for us, if I look at my revenues for Q1, in terms of my revenue through my P&L, you know, we haven't had any drop in revenue at all on the same quarter last year. But when I look at my sales revenue for the same quarter versus last year, we're 78% down. So we've lost 78% of our sales revenue, yet our actual recognized revenue is the same as it was a year ago. So I think right now, you know, given the lead time and the delivery of projects, if you've got a 6 to 8 week lead time on resi and you might have a, you know, 10 to 20 week lead time on commercial, we're all still delivering projects that were contracted pre-COVID. I think if you're a subcontractor and you're doing installations for retailers, I think you need to be conscious of that, and you need to be conscious of the fact that, okay, I'm still busy at the moment because I'm delivering projects that this sales company contracted pre-COVID. You know, that 4 week or 6 week period where we all had no leads, you know, like John said, our phones stopped. You know, that 4 to 6 week period or whatever it might have been where there was no sales getting made, that is just going to be recognized in 6 to 8 weeks time.
So we saw that even from Finn's data, and, you know, from a supplier's point of view, we've been having to be, and you were saying subbies need to be careful about that. Are they going to see a hole in their workload? We're having to be, and I'm sure all the other kind of wholesalers and suppliers out there in the market are having to be very careful around this as well. Is you're completely right. A lot of our customers, some may have a 4 week, some may have a 6 or an 8 week lead time from sale to install. And we're having to basically survey and get really accurate forecasts off our customers, so that if there is a period of 4 weeks where sales, that lower sales catches up and we see a drop in installs and a drop in the amount of product needed, we don't overcook the amount of stock we have rolling in, and yeah, just have warehouses filling up. So there's different challenges for different areas. You know, subcontractors need to think about, will they see a slowdown for a period as this is just starting to catch up? You know, April, last day of the month today, we've been talking about that a lot. We've been seeing almost business as usual as well, stock going out the door, because it is, a lot of it's pre-contracted prior to COVID. But in May and June, we've got some really good forecasting of people, and we are dialing down some numbers based on what people are telling us their sales are at. So, you know, communicate with your supplier of choice out there. Let them know what's going on. Subbies, just be aware of that. Talk to the companies you're contracting to as well and ask them for that information. I think that's a good tip, Jack, is say to the companies you're contracting to, hey, I have 3 crews working for you at the moment. You know, we do, you know, whatever it may be, we do 15 jobs for you a week, but how have your sales been? Oh, sorry, we're probably only going to be able to give you 10 installs a week for a month period, come out the end of May and the start of June. Okay, well, what are you going to do with that crew now that's got nothing to do? You can only sweep the shed for about a day, you know, reorganise the shelves. James, you had your guys reorganising your warehouse the other day, didn't you, mate? Getting it all looking schmicko?
Yeah, that dead period and the bit of rain we had about a month or two ago was killer. My warehouse was smick. But we're pretty good now. We're sort of all back on top of things. Old Jacko's just holding off on a few big ones that have got to come through.
Mate, very good, very good. Hey, I've got someone else who wants to be dialed in here, Shane Kennedy. I think he came in last week when I was asking for a bit of commentary around the crap solar side of things. Shane, I don't know if your camera's on there, mate. You got me? You're in live.
Hey, Liam, how are you?
Yeah, well, mate.
What's happening?
Mate, just networking the new way. I'm just drinking a glass of water though today. I'll have to bring a brew next week, I think. So
You need to bring water for me, mate, because I don't drink brew.
that is true. That is true. What are you hearing out there, mate?
Mate, hearing lots of shit at the moment. I'm busy. I got heaps of stuff I got to get done. I got like 3 or 4 meg I got to get done before the end of September. Just your usual installs, you know. But we diversify a bit. I've got Cross River Rail going on as well, so we do all the electrical for Cross River Rail. So between those two, mate, keep me busy.
Good stuff. That's what I want to hear. What are you hearing out there that's negative or giving you the shits at the moment?
Mate, I'm hearing these companies putting off sales staff and having them go on the COVID fucking benefits, and instead of paying them retainers and then selling from home, mate. I know a couple of the sportsman companies are doing it, but it seems to be the go at the moment, mate. Just get rid of your staff, have them on $750 a week, thanks to the government, and still like get them selling, mate. You know.
Well, look, I hope they're keeping an eye on people doing the wrong thing if they are out there, mate. But I hadn't actually heard those whispers. So you've got a man who's got his ear close to the ground. Look, someone else just put a comment in the comment feed as well. I've seen it twice, actually. John Inglis put in Mill Solar. James threw it in there as well. I have just only really heard about them. I think I might have seen that inverter getting displayed at the Solar Victoria stand at the All Energy a couple of years ago, but that's made in Melbourne, I think. So you'd have to educate me a little bit more on that one, but great to see if there's a Aussie-made inverter. John, you there, mate? I'll bring you back in.
Yep, so that's one there. They look robust. They definitely work. This one's got 8 kilowatts on it. They've got a pretty high voltage range. So we've got 16 panels feeding 2 strings of 16 ET250s. Hey, blast from the past.
Mate, we're not going for a plug in here.
No, I don't sell the ETs anymore, mate. They cost me $800,000.
Shit. Mate, it's good to see an Aussie-made product. Like, as much as, you know, I don't want to spruik products. It's just great to see Aussie-made products. I remember years ago putting in the Latronics product.
Oh, yes. Put a few of them in.
Big bulk steel box.
Yeah. Well, if we're not spruiking it, Aussie inverter, you know, they go well. It actually runs at 5200, which is a good thing. But more people get on board with that, the better, I reckon. Because I think they're the only grid-tied inverter available that's made in Australia.
Yeah, I don't know of any others. Grid tie, obviously standalone inverters. There's another great manufacturer in Melbourne, Selectronic, but more this standalone inverters, obviously. But yes, support Australian businesses, whether it's manufacturers, Australian-owned companies. Look, thank you so much for the people that have jumped in today. Somebody's just put in there Sunny Roo. That's another blast from the past. Jeez, that stuff was shit. Look, thank you so much for coming in to Solar Yarns, episode number 2. I want to see more involvement out there. I'll keep hyping it up. I'll do another one next Thursday at 4 p.m. So make sure you jump in. I'll put the recording up for those who didn't catch it. Thank you so much for the people that jumped in. Solar Yarns, the first ever online solar networking in Australia, the new way to network with your peers. So next week, I want to hear more suggestions for Jack and the CEC on how we can help improve things. I want to hear more installers and stories, some banter, some crap solar. Bring it on. See you next week.